Ethan Crumbley is among the latest high-profile school shooters. And the one thing that's very different about this shooter is that his parents, that's right, his parents are charged with involuntary manslaughter for the actions of their son. Well, we're going to talk about this on this episode of Charlie Crimebuster, what some people have called, well, they call it the fastest minutes in podcasting. Well, hello and welcome again to Charlie Crimebuster's Crime Talk. Now, we will be talking about a game-changing case. That's right, a game-changing case on today's episode. But first, let me thank you for joining with us on today's podcast. Now, we do welcome listeners from coast to coast. And by the way of appreciation, we will once again invite your comments about today's episode. You can contact us at charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. That's charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. And we will again award each response with a gift of appreciation. Now that address again is charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Also, take time to go over to charliecrimebuster.com. Check us out there on the web. And don't forget about our new project. You can find it at peacemakernetwork.com. That's peacemakernetwork.com. We're updating that one on a weekly basis, and we're excited about the new project. Now, we're really talking about a game-changing case. Never, to my knowledge, in a school-related shooting has charges been brought against the parents for the actions of their child. Now, while I do understand that the charges are about the actions or inactions of the parents that led to the actions of the child, I also do understand that there are very good people out there who are divided about this attempted prosecution. It is indeed something what we should talk about among ourselves. First, let's get into the background of what happened. That's just in case you've been living under a rock, so to speak. I say that because this did become national news. Well, it became national news at the speed of light when it happened. And here is kind of a timeline for you and I to follow as we begin to discuss this case. Now, this particular timeline actually begins of November the 26th, that's in 2021. This is when police says this is the date that James Crumbley, that's the father of the shooting suspect, Ethan Crumbley, this is when they purchased a 9mm SIG, that's an SP 2022 pistol. An employee at that gun store, well, he did confirm that James Crumbley brought his son along while he purchased that. And on that same day of November the 26th, well, Ethan Crumbley, the school shooter, well, he posts photos of the gun on social media. It had the caption along with it, "Just got my new beauty today." That's according to police. Now then, on November the 27th, Jennifer Crumbley, that's his mom, she also posted on social media. Says, quote, "Mom and Son Day, testing out his new Christmas present." That again is according to authorities. Then comes the day on Monday, November the 29th. This is when a teacher at Oxford High School, well, she observed Ethan searching ammunition on his cell phone. That was during class. She reported seeing it to school officials. Well, school officials on that same day, that Monday, November the 29th, well, they contacted Jennifer Crumbley by way of voicemail about the concerning behavior of her son. They followed that up with an email, and Jennifer Crumbley then exchanged text messages about the incident with her son. You know what she said? She said, quote, to her son, "LOL, I'm not mad. You just have to learn not to get caught." That's what officials said. Now, keep in mind, this is about him searching for ammunition. It certainly wasn't anything about the shooting on that day that the mother texted about. No, November the 30th, this is Tuesday. This was right before the shooting on that very day. It seems that a teacher found a very disturbing note and a drawing on Ethan Crumbley's desk. She took a picture of that and passed out that information to school officials. Then at 10 a.m., according to Sheriff Botchard, well, Ethan Crumbley's parents, well, he met with Oxford High School officials. There in that meeting, they discussed concerning behavior by the 15-year-old. That is concerning behavior that occurred on both Monday and Tuesday morning. Then, at 12:50 p.m., the meeting was over, and at 12:50 p.m., just before 12:51 p.m., well, Ethan Crumbley, this school shooter, well, he went into a bathroom with his backpack. That was according to the Oakland County Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, Mark Keast. Now, at 12:51, Ethan Crumbley is accused of then walking out of the bathroom with that 9mm SIG. He fired shots at classmates. And at 12:52 p.m., the Oakland County Sheriff's Office received hundreds of phone calls about gunshots at the high school. Then at 12:57 p.m., this is again on the day of the shooting. This is on Tuesday morning. On the day of the shooting, well, this was approximately the time that Oakland County deputies took Ethan Crumbley into custody. According to Undersheriff Mike McCabe, well, he said the shooting suspect, get this, he was arrested within 5 minutes of the first 911 call. Now, we just have to take a moment, take our hats off to the timely response of the sheriff's office during this time. It is incredible that they were able to apprehend him in just 5 minutes from the call. Well, at 1:22 p.m., this was when the news of the active shooter at Oxford became public. Well, during this time, Jennifer Crumbley, well, she texted her son, quote, "Ethan, don't do it." That's according to authorities. And at 1:37 p.m., well, James Crumbley, the father, he then called 911 to report that a gun was missing from his house, and he believed that his son might be the shooter. Then between 1 and 3 p.m. on the same day of the shooting, this is the time between when the police made an arrest and the first briefing, well, Ethan Crumbley, he did invoke his right to remain silent, and he asked for an attorney. Now, at 3 p.m. the same day, McCabe, well, he revealed that 3 students had been killed in the shooting. Hannah, Tate, and Madison. At 3 to 5 p.m. during this time period, well, deputies then, they served a search warrant at Ethan Crumbley's house. Deputies did seize the teenager's cell phone as evidence. At 5 p.m., we heard from the Michigan governor, Governor Whitmire. He joined McCabe for a second briefing. They thanked the first responders for their work, and they offered thoughts and prayers for everyone involved. At 5 p.m., McCabe revealed that Ethan Crumbley's parents had told their son not to talk to the police, and they did express that they would be hiring him an attorney. At 7 p.m. that day, a prayer vigil was held at the Lake Point Community Church in Oxford. Now, on Wednesday, December the 3rd, around 11:15 a.m., well, the sheriff, he provided another update. He included details from the surveillance video inside the school and the conditions of the injured victims. At 12:30 p.m., well, officials, sadly, they announced that a 4th student, Justin Schilling, 17, he had died from injuries suffering during the shooting. At 2 p.m., that's when the Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald, she announced that Ethan Crumbley, well, that he's going to be facing 24 charges. 1 count of terrorism causing death, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 accounts of assault with intent to murder, 12 counts of possession of a firearm and the commission of a felony. At 3 p.m., well, the sheriff, he held a briefing. He expressed support, of course, for the decision to charge Ethan Crumbley as an adult. He also said that more than 30 shots had been fired during the shooting. There were 3 15-round magazines. They had been found, and there was no evidence, according to the sheriff, of previous bullying of this young student. At 4 p.m., well, Ethan Crumbley, he appeared on video for his arraignment. His parents also appeared on video during the proceedings. And the judge? Well, the judge, she denied bond in the case. She agreed to have Ethan Crumbley transferred to the Oakland County Children's Village and from there to the Oakland County Jail. At 6 p.m., deputies released an update on the conditions of the injured victims. 4 of them had been discharged from the hospital. 2 were listed as stable, and, well, 1 remained in critical condition. Then on Thursday, December the 2nd, just 2 days after the shooting, well, overnight into Thursday morning, in the wake of the Oxford school shooting, there were dozens of other schools around southeast Michigan. They had temporarily closed their doors due to threats. At 4 p.m., the sheriff revealed that they were investigating dozens of school threats in the area. They issued a stern warning to anyone making such threats. And at 4:15, during the briefing about school threats, well, McDonald reveals that she is going to make a decision within 24 hours on whether or not Ethan Crumbley's parents will face charges. And then on December the 3rd, around 12 p.m., well, there, a prosecutor, he issued involuntary manslaughter charges against the parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley. And at 12:15 p.m. that same day, Judge Nicholson, she approved a warrant to take James and Jennifer Crumbley into custody. Now, my friends, since this is a game-changing charge, you can imagine that there is indeed a lot of controversy about this case. There is even controversy about if Ethan's parents were running from the law after their charges were announced. We're going to tell you a little more about that in a minute. But right now it is time for what we call our Charlie Crimebuster's Courageous Citizen of the Week. Now, even though our hero on this week has been mentioned in past Charlie's podcasts, I think it's only fitting that we honor him again today, this time as Charlie's Courageous Citizen. You see, during, my friend, those panic-filled minutes at the Oxford school, as young people were running for their lives away from the shooter, well, there was one young man that was seen running toward the shooter with the thoughts of disarming the shooter. That young man, my friend, was killed for his actions that day, and his memory will long live in the hearts of the community for his courage. His name is Tate Meyer, only 16 years of age. You see, Tate, he was considered a standout football player. He had just been honored by the Michigan High School Football Coaches Association Division. That was according to NBC News. Oxford football, well, they tweeted, Tate was a wonderful young man who was tremendously hardworking and respectful. The team said that he had the brightest of futures and was a better young man off the field than even on it. You see, Tate had always dreamed about playing college football. That was since he was young, and he planned to be a leader. Not only vocally, but quietly. That's according to his profile on the sports website, the D-Zone. A Change.org petition, well, it's been created to rename the Wildcat Football Stadium in honor of this young athlete. It reads this, quote, Tate is not just a hero to his fellow students at Oxford High School, but a legend. His act of bravery should be remembered forever and passed down through generations. He put his life in danger to try and help the thousands of other students at Oxford High School. Joseph Casimo, he commented, Tate is the face of Oxford football. He will be missed, and we need to do something to recognize this is that thing. And meanwhile, Carter Bennett, he added that Tate was a staple of the attitude that is Oxford football. He would come in early every day, working his butt off. He was always caring and kind to others. I'll miss you later. Another said the heroes deserve to be honored and remembered, even when the circumstances in which their heroism was displayed most prominently are tragic. Love to his family and friends. And my friend, this young football player who ran toward danger instead of away from danger, my friend, he is indeed, and we say this in honor and memory of this fine Charlie Crimebuster's courageous citizen, this young man, Tate. He is our Charlie's Courageous Citizen of the Week. Now, our focus today is on Ethan Crumbley's parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley. The school shooter's parents are going on trial for involuntary manslaughter, and there are two different thoughts on if they were trying to make a getaway from the law when they were charged. You see, after the news of the shooting emerged, well, Jennifer, that's Ethan's mom, she texts these words, "Ethan, don't do it." Now, was this a call to stop what he was doing? Or was this his mom, as any mom, saying, "Don't kill yourself," as a number of mass shooters do? Then 15 minutes after this text, well, James, the father, made a 911 call. This was roughly 40 minutes after Ethan allegedly had killed 4 people. You see, James allegedly told cops that his son may have been the shooter, and he did report that his gun was missing. You see, Ethan had boasted about the weapon on social media, uploading a photo of it to Instagram, called it his new beauty. It's likely that the teen had this gun in his backpack. In fact, it's proven that he did during the meeting at the school with his parents. An Oakland County prosecutor, Karen McDonald, well, she charged the Crumbleys with involuntary manslaughter on Friday, December the 3rd. That's the same week that this occurred. You see, it's rare for parents to be charged in relation to school shootings carried out by their children. Even as most minors, they do get their guns from a parent or a relative's house. And, my friend, there is no Michigan law that requires gun owners to keep weapons locked away from children. But McDonald, however, suggested there's much more to build this case on. The prosecutor went on to say, "All that I can say at this point is that those actions on Mom and Dad's behalf go far beyond negligence." That's what she told WJR-AM. She went on to say, quote, "We obviously are prosecuting the shooter to the fullest extent, but there are other individuals there who should be held accountable," end of quote. Now here is the beginning of the first controversy. Did they really go on the run, so to speak? You see, after the news of their charges, well, the Crumbleys, they allegedly withdrew $4,000 from an ATM. And according to some, they failed to meet a deadline to surrender themselves. The couple, well, they were tracked down by a fugitive team, and they were found 11 hours later in a basement. You see, police located them after their car was reportedly found abandoned in Detroit. Now, the Crumbleys' lawyer, they told the Daily Beast in a statement, they said the Crumbleys left town on the night of the tragic shooting for their own safety. They are returning to the area to be arraigned. They're not fleeing from law enforcement despite recent comments in the media. Now, Detroit Police Chief James White, he said on Saturday a third person may have even assisted the couple into getting into the building to hide. They said that was also being looked at by investigators. You see, the Crumblies did not break into the building they were found in. They were let inside by that person. That's what the chief there told reporters. After being caught by police with James and Jennifer, they surrendered to authorities without incident, and they were taken into custody. This Michigan couple, they pleaded not guilty to all charges against them, and they did claim that the gun that they used, well, it was locked. You see, they're currently being held on $500,000 bond, each after the judge cited concerns of them being a flight risk that was based on their recent actions. You see, prior to turning themselves in, well, law enforcement was already tracking the Crumbleys' whereabouts by way of cell phone, but that was before their phones were turned off. But now the attorneys, again, they're saying a much different story. They reaffirmed that the couple left the town for their own safety at the night of the shooting. They went on to say that the Crumbleys' attorneys had said, this is Sharon Smith and Meryl Lehman, they said on Saturday morning, quote, "We understand our clients were apprehended last night, although we fully intended to turn them in first thing this morning for arraignment." This was contrary to misinformation, they said, that had been rampant in the media. Unfortunately, they went on to say this case presents the most unimaginable tragedy for every single person involved, including every member of the community. You see, they went on to say, while it's human nature to want to find someone to blame or something to point to or something that gives us answer to the charges in this case, they said they're intended to make an example and to send a message. The prosecution, well, they went on to say, had very much cherry-picked and slanted specific facts to further their narrative to do that. And again, the attorneys went on to say, we intend to fight this case in the courtroom and not in the court of public opinion. We know that in the end, the entire story and truth will prevail. So my question, my friend, is this. Were they on the run or just hiding out for their own safety? This one I believe I can easily answer for you. You see, both thoughts are really right. They were hiding out for their own safety, and the attorneys had contacted the prosecution and were intending to turn the Crumbleys over to the authorities. But they seemed to neglect the top law enforcement officer in the county, that is the sheriff. And the sheriff, well, he would not have it. Here is what he says. You see, Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bulchert, he said this Saturday. He said that his office pursued the arrest of James and Jennifer Crumbley as soon as it received the warrant and did not wait for them to turn themselves in. We're not going to sit there and tap our fingers on the front desk and wait for them to come in. That's what the sheriff said in a press conference on that Saturday of that week. You see, the sheriff, he was already, he himself on the run. He was on the run looking for them prior to the issue of the warrant. You see, this is why Crumbleys are not charged with eluding the police. I do not believe that they really thought for a moment that they could escape of all the national attention on this case. They were hiding out from the public for their own safety and did intend to turn themselves in on their own timeline. Only thing is, well, the timeline that really mattered in this case is a proactive sheriff, one that would not give them an opportunity to even think about getting out of the area. You see, my friend, this is what I call good sheriffing, good law enforcement. Unlike a recent case where Brian Laundrie escaped the long arm of the law here in Florida. But see, this sheriff, he was proactive. He, with the help of the Detroit police and tips from a concerned citizen, nabbed the parents before they could turn themselves in. Next, we find that the Crumbles are facing a probable cause hearing. This is what some areas would call a preliminary hearing. And we're going to get to that probable cause hearing in a moment. But right now, it's time for us here at Charlie Crimebuster to share with you what we call our crazy crook story. You see, we always try to lighten the load here in our podcast with a crazy crook story. And believe it or not, we never run out of these stories. My friend, you really just can't make this stuff up. This one comes to us from Somerset, New Jersey. 2 teenagers are charged with criminal homicide. Now get this. This was after the cops stumbled upon them while they were trying to dump a dead body in the woods of Pennsylvania. And how did they stumble upon them? Well, these bright guys, they left their hazard lights on. That's right. Anthony Gamble, 19, and Joshua Gamble, 17, who also is being charged as an adult. Well, they were taken into custody Thursday morning after Pennsylvania state troopers, well, they pulled over to check what they assumed were a disabled vehicle. That's on side of a Richland Township road. That's what Bucks County District Attorney said. You see, the troops approached a blinking silver Subaru and a parked Audi just after midnight. And there they found Joshua Gamble lying on the ground in the woods wearing a glove and a bloody shoe. As they detained the younger teen, well, his brother Anthony ran toward the car, wearing blood-stained clothing, carrying gloves. He, too, was promptly arrested. Troopers then found, now get this, a dead man's body in the woods near the Audi, which contained blood and a large knife on the passenger side floor. You see, the initial investigation indicates the unidentified male appeared to have stab wounds about his head, neck, upper chest, and arms. Well, both cars, the victim and the knife, were found within 100 feet of each other. And these teens are charged with criminal homicide, criminal conspiracy, possession of instrument of crime, and tampering with the evidence. Investigators are now trying to determine the circumstances of the fatal stabbing and figure out why the alleged bumbling killers were across the state line, more than 60 miles from Somerset County. Well, these two teens who were crazy enough to leave their emergency flashers on while the car was on the side of the road, well, they are indeed our crazy crooks of the week. Well, now, just this past Monday, there was a probable cause hearing held for James and Jennifer Crumbley. Apart from this tragic school shooting, what do we really know about James and Jennifer Crumbley? Well, Jennifer, she's the second wife of James Crumbley. She's the mother of Ethan and a stepmother to James' other son, Eli. Now, Eli, he had moved out of the house and back to Florida in March of 2021. You see, both Jennifer and James, they do have some past brushes with the law. That's here in Florida. You see, in Lee County, Florida, Jennifer was charged with letting animals run wild. While this is a relatively minor charge, in Duval County up near Jacksonville, well, she was also charged with a DUI and driving on suspended license. Also, James, he has been charged in Florida for driving on a suspended license, and he did it several times because he was considered a habitual offender there. But it does appear that the parents got their lives somewhat together when they moved to Oxford, Michigan. She got a job as a realtor, was even promoted to her own office doing public relations for the successful real estate business. He was an account executive, but was not currently working because of a stroke and back problems. And now they are both facing a game-changing charge of involuntary manslaughter, a charge in which both could face up to 15 years in prison. And at the heart of this charge are the words gross negligence. To wit, they allowed their minor son access to a weapon they allegedly purchased for their son. Adding to this, they knew that their son was a troubled teen with a ponderance toward violence. That's what the prosecutor, Miss McDonald, says. And she goes on to say it's time the parents become accountable as responsible gun owners. That parents should keep weapons locked up and keep weapons and ammo separate when minor children are around. And the failure to do so, well, it could bring criminal charges. At least it is, as it seems. However, that prosecutor, my friend, is walking a fine line. She is very careful to say that she supports the right of gun ownership, and that this does not mean that in every such shooting charges will be filed, but she says that this one is obvious, gross and negligent of the parents to have prevented this school shooting. Now, there are many that applaud her efforts to prosecute. On the other hand, there are those who say that the parents are protected by the Constitution and should not be held liable for the actions of another. And there are questions. Yes, there are questions. First, there is no Michigan law that says firearms have to be locked up. And by the way, if you're asleep at night, a criminal breaks into your home, will you have time to unlock your weapon, go to a separate place, load your weapon, and then protect yourself and family? I don't think so. But now the gun in question was found in the parents' bedroom, not Ethan's, hidden in one of the drawers. Then there is the question of the school officials at Oxford. Officials who've been trained in detecting possible school shooters. All kinds of classes and training for such officials. Far more training to the school officials, I can assure you, than James and Jennifer ever had. And yet their inactions are not under the same scrutiny as Ethan's parents. You see, these school officials who are responsible for not just one child, not one son, but responsible for the safety of the entire school. First, these officials did not expel Ethan immediately and send him home with their parents right then and there, and not allow him back until he had seen counseling was considered no longer a danger to the school. That was not done. Secondly, these school officials did not even search his backpack, which they had the right to do so. And just as importantly, my friend, the school officials did not immediately report this to the police. The police, who I will assure you would have searched the backpack, inquired about his access to weapons. You see, I'm not saying that the parents are not responsible in some ways for this tragedy. But if the prosecutor really wants to make a public example, to do more to stop these type of shootings, and wants to point out gross negligence, why not charge the school officials as well? You see, as I mentioned, there's a whole lot of controversy about this charge, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. The probable cause, part of the trial, which has a low standard for a prosecutor to reach, well, it started on Monday, only to be delayed some days regarding some discovery issues the defense brought up. You see, my opinion is that the prosecution will win the probable cause hearing. But the actual trial, you see, that's where the case must be proved beyond reasonable doubt. Well, that one I'm not sure about at the moment. Will jurors convict these parents and turn a blind eye to others who misjudge the warning signs of the teen? Or will they say, as others, that parents can't always know what their teens are doing or are capable of doing? You see, good parents sometimes have teens do bad, while bad parents sometimes have kids turn out great. But let me ask you a question. What say ye? What do you think? I would love to hear from you. Contact me at charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. And we have lots of yet to come from this groundbreaking, game-changing charge. But in closing, let me remind you to be aware of those who are around you, who may even be planning a mass shooting. Remember, the shooter will always procure a weapon. He will plan his actions. He may even tell a friend or make a suspicious post. Will often practice his actions, as the recent offender here in Daytona, Florida, who was caught by authorities, by the way, get this, on the way to a firing range to practice on the very day that he planned a shooting at a nearby college. But thanks to an alert friend who saw something and said something, contacted law enforcement, and stopped a mass shooting. You see, while you and I are not called on today to sit on the jury to judge the parents of Ethan Crumbley, my friend, we are called on to be alert, to be vigilant for the lives we save, friend. Well, let me say, they all are precious. And until this time next time, my friend, if you see something, please say something.